witches, what is up? I'm Jade, this is Jade and Ribbon Witchery, and today we're going to be going over some bare bones basics of witchery. This is going to be magical tools and supplies. So I'm going to start with the real basic stuff and kind of add on from there. I want you guys to keep in mind that you do not need every single tool to get started with witchcraft and with your practices. As a matter of fact, I encourage people to take their time, learn what kind of things they need, and find things that they either have lying around or kind of be patient, because you will find that these items that you need just come into existence in your life in the strangest ways, because there's a lot of different things that can be used and collected. So let's start with the real basics, okay? The 4 basic tools, we'll start with the Athames. It is associated with the east and the air for some practices. Some associated with fire, but regardless, it's used to direct magical energy. It's traditionally a black-handled, double-edged dagger. It does not have to be, okay? I repeat, does not have to be. It's associated with the will, magical will, and masculine elements. It can be made of obsidian, stone, quartz crystal, flint, marble, petrified wood. It can be made of a lot of different things. You can use any type of alphabets or runes on it. There's a lot of different methods and ways that you can inscribe them magically. Theban script, Norse runes, Ogham, there's lots of different options, okay? There is no right or wrong way, it all depends, and this is why also sometimes you might end up getting a set of tools and inscribing them and consecrating them for one current you're working with, and then maybe later down the line you might start working with a different current and feel very guided to use those in a different way. So I will show you some different examples of Athames. And another item that does fit into this category are bowlines or bowlines. They're a curved white-handled knife, as well as swords. Can also fit into this category, and all of them are acceptable. Not everybody has swords. It's just another optional tool dependent on personal preference. I have a couple examples of things I will bring out. So some examples for Athames would be, here is a traditional double-bladed black-handled knife. Okay, you can get these right on Amazon. It's just basic M-Tech. I will put a link in the description box if you've been looking for something really basic, black-handled, double-bladed, but it is sturdy, has a good blade. You can see this blade goes all the way down the handle and is bolted into place. I like a quality blade and knife, and I do know what I'm looking for, so this is a pretty good option, honestly. There are other options you can get. You can go with something more like this, where it is meant to look more rustic, more old. There are companies that make these as well, and I will put some links for those. You know, you might, if you're working with Norse or Teutonic currents or shamanic medicine, you may, you know, something a little bit more Neolithic like this may appeal to you more, you know, depending. There are also ones like this that have the Celtic knotwork. Honestly, I was a little skeptical of this one. This one you can find on Amazon as well. The handle of it does contain lead, but the blade does not. The blade is 100% steel. It is double-bladed. If you specifically are really into, you know, Celtic or even Norse, that kind of rune work, knot work, you may like this one. It's really, really personal preference, okay? Don't let a book that says it has to be black-handled dictate. You know, you can have a multitude of them, and over a long time of practicing, you're going to find you probably do acquire several sets of tools, okay? So don't get too crazy about it. This one is actually one that was handmade, which is really, really interesting and cool. I've had this since I was about 20 years old. This was like my first actual handmade one, and if you have an opportunity to handmade one or have somebody help you handmake one, that is an amazing option. Here's an example of a bowline or bowline. Okay, it is a curved blade, and it does have a white handle if you are looking for something like that, or at least it's light colored. And again, this has a blade that goes all the way down the handle. All in all, not terrible. You know, I do like it. It serves its purpose. It's really cool. It looks like a crescent moon. Yeah, so those are some simple options for Athames. Swords are optional. You do not need them, but you may find yourself picking one up at some point as you get more serious, especially if you're into ceremonial magic and certain things like that. Plus, I mean, it's just badass. It's a sword. I got one that was not too big, so it's easy for me to cast a circle with it. It should not be too big for you to easily maneuver and handle. It should not be too heavy. And yeah, you can get a relatively nice one for relatively inexpensive online, and then you can always sharpen it up to your standards or your specifications, and you can alter them as well. So now we're going to be talking about the chalice, cup, or cauldron. Again, as with the Athames, bowline, and sword, these are kind of several different options here. You can have both, you can have multiple variants. A cauldron is a magical pot or kettle, and the chalice or cup, traditionally silver. Both are a symbol of the goddess, the divine feminine energy, and the element of water. There's a lot of deities associated with cauldrons and chalices. Ceridwen, Baba Yaga, Circe, the Dagda, the Odin, Thor. They are associated with the water elements and the feminine principle. Okay, they are the receptacles, the receptors. They are used for offering wine. These are solely used for ritual purpose. And also keep in mind that you can go a variety of different ways. You know, you might end up having a simple silver chalice that you find at a thrift shop or something. You can also find more elaborate ones that are carved and very beautiful. I will, there is a link for this one. Anything that you can get, I will link on Amazon. Some of these things are personal to me though, and therefore you cannot get them. This is really cool, this kind of drinking horn. You can also go this route, again, for Norse Teutonic traditions, for your shamanic tools. You may want something a little bit more like this. You know, you can feel free to express yourself through the tools and ritual items. Some are a little bit more expensive, cauldrons, especially if they're real cast iron, and they should always be real cast iron for your cauldrons. Do not skimp on a cauldron, okay? It's really important. There are ones that look like cauldrons, but they're just like metal containers, and they're not. You can still burn offerings in them, you can still hold like scrying liquid in them, but you cannot really brew a hot liquid or anything over a fire or overheat with them. They're just made to look like cauldrons, but they're more like a receptacle, or you could burn a candle in it, or maybe incense in it, but they can't withstand the kind of heat that true cast iron can. And yeah, they do need to be seasoned and all of that. So definitely look into that option. Seasoning is just where you basically like rub it down with different oils and bake it in the oven for a while. But yeah, look up seasoning and make sure you definitely season your cast iron cauldron so it doesn't get damaged. I mean, depending on how often you use it and what you use it for. The next tool I want to talk about is the Pentacle or pentagram. It represents the north and the element of earth. It's from the pentagrammon, meaning 5 lines, 5-lined. And it's used in the Key of Solomon, represents the human body, right? We've all seen that Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci. It represents the 5 elements and mirroring one another and implying this duality of right hand and left hand path, and as above, so below. It's a flat disc of copper, wood, clay, ceramic, brass, gold, stone, whatever you want it to be. These are some other options. Some of these, they can be gotten on Amazon. Others cannot be. Here is just a simple little silver one. Okay. Good to, you know, burn things on or put things on. Here is a wooden option. It's more ornately hand carved and very, very pretty. Here's an option where it's a triqueta. You know, this is also, again, if you work with Celtic or shamanic, Celtic, Norse, Northern type, and you know, if you vibe with this kind of knotwork, it's still a metal flat disc representation. You know, this is why I have several, because, you know, depending on what I'm doing, I can switch it out for different things. It still can be used as a charging plate. These are the Pentacles. They can actually have a whole variety of symbols. They can actually be a pentacle, they can be a pentagram. We also have the symbols for earth, air, fire, water, the little triangles. Again, a triqueta, tree of life. There's so many, the triple moon. There are many, many symbols that are acceptable to represent this element. It simply just represents real life things, earthy type elements. The next major tool is the wand or staff. It is associated with the south and with fire. It can also be switched and associated with air in different directions. Neither is right or wrong, but traditionally they're handcrafted and can be simple or ornately carved from multiple different types of wood. They can be used for directing energy, banishing, charging, casting circles, defensive magic, associated with fire, passion, growth. And if I did not say, chalices are the feminine principle and receptivity, emotions, all the watery type elements, as well as the Athames being associated with air and air type elements, thoughts and swiftness and ideas like that. These align with those same directions and correspond with the same types of ideas, okay? It also is interpreted as the symbol of the phallus, and they can be made of many, many different types of woods: oak, willow, apple, elder, hawthorn, blackthorn, walnut, birch. I mean, this one is actually willow. This is one I collected myself from a very special tree, and yeah, I've had it for a very long time. I absolutely adore it. It's very simple. I like all the cool little natural willow knotwork on it. And this is one I actually got from another place. It came in a subscription box, and I thought it was really, really adorable. And I actually have a selenite wand as well that's usually around somewhere. And I have some other ones, and I actually have some wands that I'm currently working on. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with wands. They can literally be made of different types of stones, different types of gems, different types of woods. Here we have a whole list of woods, and then stones and metals. And then there's also ones that are made of bone, antlers and horns, silver, clay. Any combination of these materials is acceptable. Now, some of the other tools, those are the four main tools that everybody thinks about. They're the four suits of the tarot, right? They're the four main directional elements that most people think of when they think of witchcraft. But there are many other things to consider. Altars, for one. There are many, many different types of altars. They can be literally a table, such as this. I have several other small tables. They can be a secretary's desk, a special type of hutch, a shelf. There are so many different ways you can go with altars and what they can be used for. This is my divination altar where I read tarot and whatnot. I have a separate altar that I perform magic on. I have smaller ones that can fit into small circles with me. I have one that is kind of built into a storage magical cabinet secretary's desk. I have several that I work with for different things. Some different examples of altars. Here is just a small end table draped with black material. I use this commonly as an altar, depending on what type of magic I'm doing and where I am. This is a medium-sized one that suits quite well. Here is another example. If you look, this whole thing is a secretary's desk / cabinet. Right? It has drawers, it has all these things, lots of storage, and I commonly will open it up, and it will open up, and I will use this as an altar right here. Other items you're probably going to need and find yourself stocking up on are candles in a wide assortment of colors and sizes. Lots of charcoal. Here's some of my, here's my tatwas and my other divination items, my runes, and these are dowsing rods. Here are items like my pens and inks, and different feathers and smudging tools, all different feathers and crafting items. There's like horns and whatnot. And then here again, cord, cord is something that you'll find talked about. And although I have some fancier and better actual cords, like here's all different like strings, bits and bobs, little jars and droppers, all different salts, matches. We have all different types of oils and herbs and incenses, resin, incenses, all different types of herbs and offerings, all different spell ingredients. We've got some full moon water from this year's Samhain. And then, of course, we have crystals and stones and gems, special deities and little enchantment boxes. Do the best with what you have. Another thing you're probably going to need is some notebooks in order to take notes on what you're doing. These are referenced as grimoires or books of shadows. These terms are used kind of interchangeably, right? A lot of people will use grimoires as kind of like the blueprint for which entities they're working with or which different things they're doing. This is the process they're using. Books of shadows can be literally handwritten ritual books, you know, depending on how you use the term. Some people like to use them interchangeably, some people like one or the other. That's fair, but the point is that you should have some type of notebook. It's best to have several. I have one that I write my dreams in, one that I write all my basic, like what kind of stuff I'm working with and what I'm doing and what thoughts I'm having, what meditations have I been, you know, what simple ritual work am I doing, as well as I have bigger books like these where I've done a combination of cut and paste as well as handwritten notes with pen and ink, because I do think it's important to use the pen and ink, write things out, especially when it's your own rituals, your own spell work. Sigils, there's lots of things that you should absolutely use a pen and ink for. I haven't even gotten there yet, but here we are. Some other basic items you're probably going to need and acquire at some point include offering bowls, offering plates, and different things that can be used as censers. This is an actual little censer. It has a screen on it where you can burn your charcoal discs and heap incense on it. This could be used as an offering plate. It could also be used for burning. Generally, I will use this one as an offering plate. This is an offering plate. This is an offering bowl. If you don't have an actual like incense censer like this, you can also use smudge bowls, abalone shells. Those are perfectly fine. I have 3 or 4 of those that I do use for saging and smudging, but I also will double it as a censer for incense or anything I'm trying to burn. It basically, if it can withstand the heat and will at least somewhat contain whatever you are burning. Obviously, for larger things like bigger sigils, bigger pieces of paper, more stuff that you're burning, you probably want something a little bigger, like your cauldron. You can also use one of the cauldrons that are on the market where it's just kind of metal. It's not really cast iron, but you could certainly, you know, let a sigil burn in it, let a candle burn in it. Another common item for use in witchcraft and magic would be the bell, the witch's bell. There are many different bells. There is one. I have several in different sizes and types. This one has a dragon. I have a bunch of really cool ones. Also, things like singing bowls. Bells, singing bowls, rattles. Especially if you're into shamanism in any form, or I use rattles as well as drums. Drums, rattles, bells, all of these types of instruments are used to induce a trance-like state that is necessary for many types of ritual magic, okay? So all of these things are likely going to be acquired over time. You don't have to necessarily get all of these things. You know, it's going to depend on how many different currents or paths you're interested in. I happen to be interested in quite a few. This is a passion I've held for a while, so over time I've collected a great many things. Some of these things are specially bought or from other countries, but anything, again, that you can get on Amazon or from a local place, I will put a link in the description box. The next item I want to talk about is a witch's broom or besom. Here's an example of a very simple handmade besom. You can usually find these around the holidays, in the fall and whatnot, in craft stores, relatively inexpensive, and it is a traditional type besom. If you want to grab one of these, at least until you are able to fully make your own from hand, which can be kind of a trying process, this is a great option. So this is a besom. It's used for clearing ritual spaces, for casting circles and spell work. It can be made of a lot of different things. Apple, ash, elder, elm, maple, oak, all the traditional types of trees are acceptable. Walnut. And then there's different woods you can use for the bristles, as well as magical properties like willow, broomcorn, birch twigs, etc. So yeah, it's just another traditional item that it isn't a major tool, but I feel like it goes overlooked, you know, a lot of the time, even though it's a very old and traditional symbol. I think they're important. There are also a wide variety of different candlesticks, candelabras in all different shapes and sizes. I think I have, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 individual metal candle holders in brass and copper. I have a big candelabra, lots and lots of candle holders, because depending on the ritual you're doing, you may need several different candles or a circle of candles, so you'll probably need to collect a lot of those. A great option I found is thrift stores. If you continually check some of the thrift stores near you, I can tell you I have definitely gotten chalices and offering plates and bowls and things that could be used as censers or thuribles for relatively cheap, probably under $20. You can go into any thrift store and grab a bunch of things that would work, and a lot of times you can find them in real silver. They maybe just need to be polished up, and this is you know, these things, they're going to happen over time. Nobody just acquires all of these things overnight. It takes time, and we all, you know, start with the basics and work the best with what we have, and as we continue to learn and grow, we acquire more things, right? And we figure out what we like more, and what kind of things are going to suit our interests and the path that we are on. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it didn't overwhelm you. Again, start with the basics, and a lot of these things you can either get at thrift stores or make yourself, or get relatively inexpensively, especially to start. You should not worry about having all the most ornate ritual tools and all the fanciest things. Just worry about having enough of the basics, and again, you can literally make yourself or find yourself a set of basic tools and items, and then add on to the basic supplies and things over time, right? And you know, these are things that we constantly have to replenish, right? So you know, people who have been into this for a little while are usually, you know, restocking their candles, their salts, their herbs and crystals, and generally buying new things and finding new things and figuring out new things, researching new materials and pathworking, new grimoires. And yeah, sometimes that calls for all new tools, or something different, or something to be adapted in some way. And so I think it's important to not get too hung up on, oh, it's traditionally supposed to be this and traditionally supposed to be that, because overall, you know, depending on what current you're working with, it's going to depend on what is most important to you. So if you feel like having a certain traditional basics are going to suit you best, and that's what you feel is you're going to work best with, by all means, you know, go right ahead and do it that way. but don't ever feel like, oh, well, I really like this particular item, but this book says it's got to be only this and this specific specifications. Like, no, forget that. You know, you're gonna adapt and do things. You're gonna learn that there is nothing is set in stone, right? Everything is according to our magical will and what we choose and decide. And yeah, you might come up with ideas and gnosis that is, you know, better suited for what you're going to be doing. You know, always trust yourself, trust your instincts, trust your own intuition and what you feel is right and what ideas you have. They are valid. Don't think that, you know, just because so-and-so author says it's only this or that, you know, make sure that you're open to different things. And I mean, take things with a grain of salt and experiment for yourself and try a bunch of different things. Try a lot of different varieties, different books, different methods, different currents and energies and authors and different magical paths, because I think that we learn and grow better that way. And again, if some of you are purists and insist on, you know, sticking with one specific current or one specific tradition that was maybe handed down over time, or you feel very passionate about, or you feel a connection to, then by all means do that. I just don't like people to feel boxed in or feel like something or a way that they're doing something is wrong or incorrect, because that is just simply not true. Not the case at all. There is a wide variety, a wide array of methods that can be used and pathways that can be gone down. There are many ways and methods that are valid, and I'm sure that there are even new techniques, new methods, new things that people are dreaming up and working with right now as we speak. So, you know, don't discount your own intuition, your own knowledge, and what you feel guided to do and what you feel drawn to, and don't ever feel like you're tied into one thing and you can't explore other things. I think that makes us grow stagnant sometimes, and makes us unwilling to look at some of the other traditions and some of the other methods. It's always best to, you know, do a lot of research from a variety of different sources to really get to the truth of certain matters and certain things, right? So, yeah, that is my bare bones basics, and I know it was a lot, right? Just focus on basic tools and basic supplies. Those are all the main tools and supplies of witchcraft. I will try to leave the best options I can in the description box below, as far as like getting you started and what kind of things can you find reasonably and where can you find them. I will leave that kind of stuff in the description box below as much as I possibly can, so that you guys can find different items and options. So I hope that this was helpful. Do not feel overwhelmed. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to leave a comment. Ask. If I do not know, I will find out. I will absolutely answer your questions or have a conversation about this. Comment below, like, share, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you guys back next time. Alright, much love to you all. Bye.